Our next speaker for the morning is Mr. Kent Seet, the Director of Data Center Transaction from JAL Malaysia. Mr. Ken currently serves as the Data Center Transaction Lead at JAL Malaysia, where he has made significant contributions to the company's data center capabilities. Leveraging his extensive experience from previous involvement in industrial projects, Mr. Ken applies cross-sector knowledge to enhance data center strategies and solutions. He has successfully led and completed more than 10 data center projects across Malaysia, demonstrating expertise in site selection, transaction management, and client advisory services with a total land value in excess of 1 billion ringgit. Without further ado, let's welcome Mr. Ken.
Hello, testing. Okay, very good morning to everyone, and thanks to Hong Leong Investment Bank and Bursa Malaysia for the invitation today as a speaker. For my session today is split into three parts. The initial part, I will give an introduction of my company, myself, and in the middle section is all about a quick refresh of the data center landscape. I will give you an overview of all data centers in Greater KL as well as in Johor. And my last piece, the third session, is about what I have gathered from my data center clients. What do they think about Malaysia going forward, and how does it translate to most of the companies in Malaysia? How do we take advantage about it, right? So without further ado, I will kickstart. Right. So I'm representing JLL. We are the global real estate firm providing a range of corporate real estate services from transaction management, corporate office leasing, project management, all the way to, say, valuations. And our headquarters is in Chicago and the regional headquarters in Singapore. A Fortune 500 company and one of the most ethical company in the world. And you can see the rest is all some of the awards that we won along the way. Right. So this is my team, and I look after all data center transaction in my company here in Malaysia, and my company is based in the TRX. So as you can see on the left side is a local execution and support team. And on the right side is the regional support team, whereby we always exchange a lot of the data and work on certain global accounts. For example, when we have US clients or Japanese clients thinking to come to Malaysia to set up the data centers, so I will be the one working with our regional team to support our clients to set up their foot here in Malaysia. And I've been doing that for the past 7 years already. Right, so this is what the data center solution team is offering. On the left side is all about transaction, site selection, divestment, acquisition of land, assets on behalf of my customers. Co-location is another big piece that's up and coming, which you have never seen before. For the past maybe 3 years, 4 years, it's all about land acquisitions. But recently, we are seeing a lot of the co-location leasing companies or the application companies coming to Malaysia. They would like to lease more servers than before. So we have received a lot of inquiries for that piece, as well as our corporate finance team, which I'm working closely with my Singapore team. It's more all about M&As. Some of the data center operators, for example, they want to dispose their stakes in certain project or certain companies. As you know, most of the data center operators, they are backed by funds. And on the right side, we are also quite busy with it. A lot of advisory projects coming, and we are some of my team members are in Johor looking after some of the deals here. Of course, at the bottom you can see we have the project development services and facility management services, and some of my teams in Johor to manage some of the data center over there. This is some of our track records. I may look like I've just graduated, but you can see I've been around for some time already. My first deal was in Johor, and I will talk about Johor more in a bit, and all the way until the recent deals, 2025 in Greater KL, which we have signed the NDA. We cannot disclose the name, but we are around. Right. This is a global data center map compiling with my global offices around the world. This is some of the information for you to have a look quickly. And right, This is very important. As you can see that the completed capacity as of now is at 522 megawatts. At the next slide, you will see how do we stand against our regional peers. For the under construction capacity, you can see it's easily 2.5 times of the completed capacities. Of course, it depends on how fast the construction can be done, the demand and supply dynamics, market forces. So certain project can be completed within this year, or some of the project can be completed within the next coming 2 or 3 years. And on the future capacity, you can see the pipeline is 3,075 mega, which is easily 3 times of the under construction capacity. So how do we compile this information? Is we work with most of the data center companies here in Malaysia, and also we combine our regional data, and we impute all data into our database, and this is how we use the data to judge, or how do we look at the direction in the coming months or years. Of course, you may see other figures from other consultants, or from other government agencies, or even TMBs, but we have cross-check, and I think the margin is about the same. Right. So this is Malaysia compared to our regional companies, regional peers, or regional competition, right? 522 megawatt against Singapore's 1,000 operating capacity, and Indonesia 270 megawatt, and Thailand 140 megawatt. Of course, the recent hot location, or I would say that a lot of interest has been flowing to Thailand. Of course, the Prime Minister is very open to investment into the countries, and a lot of my customers, they are also asking my help to link my Thailand office to them. So this is what we are seeing. But at the latest slide, you'll notice that Malaysia actually is still the very viable location to build data centers. Of course, we are not entering a consolidation phase, but as long as we are still using mobiles, the data center sector will still continue to grow, and that is only one piece of demand driver. We have more than that. We have not even talked about robot taxi or this kind of thing is coming up. Okay, this is the data center map for Greater KL area. As you can see, there are two colors, right? So the darker colors are the up and coming location for data centers, and on the right side, the lighter blue is the existing data center location here in the Greater KL. Obviously, 5 and 6, because we are signed NDA, we cannot put up all the figures, right? But those locations is an up and coming hotspots. Some of the data center operators has go in to the site and bought 100 acres of land for their data centers set up. So you can see this is the overview of what's happening here in the Greater KL area. On the top right side, you can see the completed capacity is at 132, under construction 470 megawatt, and the pipeline you can see we are close to 1,000 megawatt, especially in Cyberjaya. Cyberjaya alone, I can say that one of the data center operators there is already planning for 200 megawatt already. But of course, it depends on how fast our infrastructure or utilities company will be able to deliver to upgrade the substation, bring in the necessary water, and all these infra project to help support the continued development of data center sector, not only in Cyberjaya and throughout the Greater KL area. Okay, this is Johor data center sector overview. Again, on the right side, is all the darker blue color is the up and coming data center location, and the light blue is Sedana Tech Park and Nusa Jaya, which is already a established location for data centers. Nusa Jaya, obviously, when I first saw a piece of land there has already been many existing industrial parks there. So it makes the entry for some of the data center operators much easier. With right zoning, right price, close to Singapore. So that makes it the perfect location. But if you notice then Nusa Jaya alone, you can see the ultimate or the pipeline capacity is 2,000 megawatt. So I think a lot of the utility providers, even my company and my clients, right, they are struggling to to build as fast as they want because of the power, water. It takes time. It just takes time to build all or upgrade the necessary infrastructure to support the data center operations. Right now, I think Sedana Tech Park is still a very safe location compared to the rest of the location. I've been working very closely with Johor Corporation, and I can see how they execute, how they work with the relevant authorities to bring in and to upgrade the necessary power or even water into the site. Of course, water is another difficult challenges that all the data center operators have to face. But looking forward, I think it also represents or it gives opportunity to the infra contractors. It gives an opportunity to more such project to be rolled out to support not only data centers but for the entire Johor to continue attract investment to the state. On the right side, especially Johor Bahru City Center, this is a very good location or a very highly sought after location for data center operators. But you can see the total computer capacity is only 1.1 megawatt, but of course, there are some data center operators that's going to be, they are going to expand their capacity over there. But to upgrade the power or to bring in, huge amount of water to the site is not easy. You are bringing in into the city center area, competing with the already established or matured population over there, doing business, living there. So it's very tough. And more so, the land cost is very high. So if they were to buy a piece of land over there, what about the plot ratio? Are they going to fully maximize the entire plot ratio? Or would the landowner be willing to sell the land to the data center operators? And by selling land to data center operators, it is not as easy as selling to another non-DC operators. These data center operators will need certainty on the water and power. What if they say the water and power will take many years to come? So that deal within Johor City Center will get stuck. But Johor City Center for data center operator is because of the close proximity to the causeway, and they will link it to one of the data centers in Singapore. And from Singapore, you link all the way to the rest of the world. So this is why this is a very important location and a very difficult location to enter. I won't go too detail into each of the park. I will leave that into the next session or any other, or maybe Q&A afterwards. Right. Obviously, land acquisition activity is slowing. The past 2 to 3 years, you can see there are so many announcements whereby the listed companies are selling land plots to many data center operators, and that in turn is some sort of the catalyst to the entire property sector, construction sector, and the rest of the supply chain, right? But recently, there's a lot of slowdown. So what does it tell me, and what does it tell all of us? How do we plan forward? Right. So when I go to my customer, right, my job is to help them to acquire land or help them to set foot or expand their data center operation here in Malaysia. For the past 6 months, they've been telling me, Ken, the risk to make a decision to acquire a piece of land right now is so much higher than before. And also, the cost is a lot higher. For example, when I first sold a piece of land in Johor to a data center operators, it was at 86 per square foot. It was 2022 June. And right now, the land price has already hit 150. For land price, it's easily, how many times? 60%, 70% of the land increment for land, right? So you can see the cost for land has increased so much within the span of 3 years. And we have not even talked about the operation cost for data center operators. The upcoming electricity tariff, how does it affect the data center operators? So these are all the considerations that they are taking into account. And they are telling me that they are going to stop buying land for now. And more so, they have bought quite a number of land back then. Those undeveloped land bank is for them to last in the coming years. So this is the second point. And third point is there was a period whereby the industries was thinking whether all of us are overbuilding. So many people are coming into Johor, building 100, 200 capacity kind of data centers, right? And to make things worse, their ultimate customer, the CSPs, Microsoft, Amazon, right? They are putting their handbrake. They are revising their planned capacity, or they are reducing, say, certain orders to the data center operators or developers, like some of the names you can see in Johor. So that has indeed sent a shockwave to the sector, and which contributes back to their decision making, whether they want to make it fast, slow, or until things are getting more stabilized. So this is what the conversation I had with my customer. But of course, Malaysia is still the preferred location for them, right? They have gone around the region, and I have been helping them throughout the years. They initially they didn't believe in Malaysia. They went around Indonesia, Philippines, Vietnam, Thailand. So after they gone around, right, they finally made up their mind, saying that, oh, Malaysia is still the best location to set up data centers, and they have set foot and continue to expand. So my job is to continue to hold their hands, and wait until the clouds are cleared, and I think they will continue to expand further here in Malaysia. Of course, our infrastructure again has to be there to support the sector. So right now, so earlier I've said that the land activities are slowing down, but this is a good time for us to prepare for the next leg up. Next leg up, I'm referring to the right side. You see, OpenAI has already announced their plans to set up some of the operation in the APEC region. Of course, they will first look at the developed countries like Korea, maybe Japan, or even India. But if you think about it, which regional countries in Southeast Asia, right, has the capability to support huge power supply, water, a stable or welcoming investment environment, and also how mature our DC guidelines or playbook will be? I still believe Malaysia is still the right location to continue to attract such investment. So this is the time for me to prepare for the next wave. And OpenAI, as you know, is focusing more on AI deployment. AI deployment is completely different from what we have seen, the cloud computing. AI deployment easily requires 3 to 4 times of power and specialized cooling technique to run such AI data centers here, say in Malaysia, right? And of course, the land they require is also will be very huge. So who is going to, or be willing to wait for such catalysts to come into market? Because it takes time. There's a cost to be incurred, and would you be willing to sit on the land just to wait for OpenAI to come in, right? What if they doesn't come in? What if they are expanding into other regional countries and not Malaysia? So how long are you willing to wait? So these are some of the business decisions they have to make. But what I'm trying to say is there are potentially new demand on top of what we have seen currently co-locating in the data centers in Johor. So if you are already aware that maybe starting 3 years back, ByteDance, I think, is one of the biggest tenant in most of the data centers in Johor. And for the most recent part, Oracle has came in. And like I said earlier, my co-location business is actually picking up. More of the Chinese operators or more of the Chinese businesses are coming into Malaysia, and they are willing to co-locate in some of the data center operators. So what it tells us is that there are more, there's a mixture of clients coming into Malaysia, and they will continue to contribute to the growth of the data center operators. And I've gone around combing all the data centers in Johor, and there's no available capacity for, say, 5 megawatt, 10 megawatt kind of demand. So what it tells us is that I think if there's a data center completed in the coming 3 months, 6 months, definitely the demand will be taken up right away. So this is what we are seeing in Johor. And sooner or later, we will see it will flow over to Greater KL. And What about Negeri Sembilan? Negeri Sembilan is right now the hotspots for data centers. So there's a lot of a topic that I can talk about, but today I'll just be focusing on the land acquisition point of view and how does it affect us in the coming years, right? Okay, so like I said earlier, the cost is rising across the development chains. Like I just give an example earlier, the land price has already increased by 70% easily in Johor. Then the second part is the largest ongoing expense for the data centers, right, is electricity. At least 50-60% of their operation cost comes from electricity. And I think coming months, our electricity tariff will be increased. And obviously, construction materials will increase as well, and more so the SSD, which will also come into the picture in the coming months. Stricter regulation, maybe another way to say this, we are now in a more controlled environment whereby data centers project approval will be much harder than before. You need to go through certain filter by the government agency, for example, MIDA, in order to get your project approved. 4 years back, or maybe 5 years back, there wasn't any such data center committee that you have to get approval before you can get your project being approved. And that's already put in place. I think what we are all seeing right now, the increase in cost, stricter regulation, right, is actually a part of a market maturation process. Market maturation process will favor the quality data center operators, and they will filter out all the speculative components that we are seeing. Actually, speculative components is everywhere in every companies, in every businesses. So this is data centers. I think what we are going through is very positive. And at the bottom part, you can see that instead of just outright land purchase, right? I've been getting a lot of comments from my customers. They are saying that in view of such a situation, maybe we can start exploring working with some of the developers or landowners to do some collaboration. It can be in the form of JVs, setting up companies together, or the most straightforward will be the build to lease model, which we are seeing quite often recently. And I'm seeing that more such JV collaboration will pick up in location that is more mature and challenging. Obviously, if the location is so easy to set up a data center, they won't need the landowner's help or developer's help to go through the process. More so when the existing operators, they are already experienced dealing with the relevant government agency, they know how to go about getting the right approval. So, which is very important, I mentioned, they will only be open to JVs in mature and challenging locations. And second point is on the public-private partnership to accelerate infrastructure upgrades. And the more recent one is obviously the collaboration between Johor Special Water and AirTrunk, whereby they are working together to bring recycled water into their data centers instead of using or competing the water supply with a consumer like us, right? So I'm seeing more of such project to be rolled out in the coming months or in years, in view that it takes time to build infrastructure, it takes time to upgrade the necessary infrastructures. They have no choice but to think of other ways of getting the right supply and also to serve their customer better. Okay. Like I said earlier, and I've been emphasizing about infrastructure. And for some of us, right, we know the project delivery time for data center is always yesterday. They are always trying to rush the project to completion as soon as they secure the customers. So, but the question is, how fast they can rush the entire project delivery timeline. You still need the actual workers to go to the site, to lay the cable, to install the power equipment, to even order some of the equipment which is not available in Malaysia from overseas. It all takes time, right? Whichever government agency you go to, whichever minister you go to, they will try to expedite, but you need to think of who is actually doing the work. And this is a very important question that we need to be aware. And going forward, I believe the infrastructure contractors, the utility providers will continue to do well because more of such projects will be rolled out soon. If not, I believe that the data center industry will be having problem of their own. They need to find new ways to bring in water, or they need to use latest, say for example, cooling technique to cool their data center. So all these are ongoing conversation. Say for example, all this while we have been using air cool to cool a data center, but recently they have been exploring about liquid cooling, this kind of thing, and the per rack power consumption previously was say 5 to 10 kilowatt per rack. Now for AI deployment, it's gone up to all the way to 30 or 60 kilowatt per rack. That's a lot. And right now, most of the data centers here in Malaysia still serve the cloud computing customers, meaning 5 to 10 is still the right sweet spot. But going forward, if AI were to come through, I think all of the data center operators, they will need to think about how they're going to design a more efficient data centers. And the contractors will have to think of ways to build the buildings in a much faster way, or a more efficient manner. The second piece, phase build. Phase build, as we know, data centers has acquired big pieces of land in various locations with different purposes, which means to say the undeveloped land banks can easily last them for 1 to 3 years ahead, right? So today's construction activities reflects the land purchase they made 1 to 3 years back. So I believe that it can still last them for a while until they receive a new demand coming in the coming months or years, before they start buying new piece of land in new location and to build a more high-spec data center throughout Malaysia. Better collaboration, meaning you can see that compared to the past few years, right, the data center operators are more willing to work with the government agencies, the local councils, the utilities providers, to help expedite their entire process. Not only that, the data center operators are open to even doing a lot of CSR project, and even willing to fork out their own cost to bring in water for their own consumption, instead of just waiting for some of the utility providers to build for them. So all these are indirectly helping the local industries, be it the listed companies or the local companies. So this is not seen in the past maybe 3 to 4 years time, and I'm very happy to see that we are maturing, while the DC guidelines or the DC playbook is still being improved, which I can see that it has improved quite a bit. But I think all of us, like Maida, myself, and even the investment agency in Malaysia, we will still continue to drive that and continue to bring in more investment into Malaysia. So the conclusion is that I believe we are in the consolidation phase, whereby we are sorting out the necessary infrastructure upgrades, be it new builds or upgrading the existing substation, water reservoir. We will go through a period of consolidation before the next leg up, like I said earlier. And comparing Malaysia to the rest of the region, right, I think we will still be able to grow steadily. As you can see, the under construction capacity is still there, and on site people are still building. And from what my customer is telling me and what I'm experiencing right now, there are more demand coming in. It's just that the land acquisition will slow down. The data center operators will still continue to build. They will still continue to be customer in the data centers. And then all of us will wait for the next catalyst, like any other businesses. That catalyst is AI. And now we are still waiting for it to happen. Of course, nobody knows when it will happen. So this is what I'm going to share. And then if you have any question, you can ask after this session or even later. There's still a lot of topic there I can talk about. For example, the next location, where would they be? Like I said, Negeri Sembilan area, we have all the big boys are there. So what does that mean? It indirectly tells that there's a catalyst to a certain location. And when they are there, the DC developers, the second tier developers will be there to continue to expand. But Negeri Sembilan, as most of you know, that a lot of landowners or developers are preparing for that already. Sime Darby, few thousand acres of land. Eco World, they are building 1,000 acres of industrial parks. And who else? Many developers, landowners are there trying to capture the piece of the market. Why Negeri Sembilan is because if you look at the greater KL map, right? Bukit Jalil, is a mature neighborhood. There's no room for more data center to be there. And of course, to bring in water power to that location is very difficult. You go to Cyberjaya, like I said earlier, the upcoming capacity is so much. One data center alone is planning 200 megawatt already. So Cyberjaya, I think, is more or less there already. So if you look further out, you'll notice why the northern Selangor has been in the recent hotspots. But if you notice, the land being acquired by the data center over there, they in a way acquired most of the land already for data centers, or land that can be prepared much faster because the land is already cleared, the zoning is right. So if we expand outwards, you will be in Negeri Sembilan already. After Cyberjaya, you'll be in Negeri Sembilan, and Negeri Sembilan obviously you have Catalyst for Dixon data center is going to be built there, and you have Nilai, Amazon is there building a data centers, a small one. I believe they will need another few more. So NSTAC, Labu, these are the up and coming locations which I'm seeing will come into fruition, whereby more data centers will be there. And most important is see the MB of Negeri Sembilan. They are very proactive in attracting investment. They are also learning from what the Johor state government has been doing. They will be able to expedite the process for the data center operators or even the other sectors to come into Negeri Sembilan and to set up the foot in Negeri Sembilan area. And more so, the Negeri Sembilan land, right, are mainly freehold. And the price is not is still reasonable compared to Johor, Cyberjaya, which is at the 100 plus and above. Negeri Sembilan is still below 100, definitely. So all these are coming to, it's part of the key points that my customer is taking into consideration before they decide to set foot. Of course, you will notice that there are some movement over at the northern part, Kedah, Penang. Penang, as you know, is so difficult. They already have an established semicon industry over there. If you were to put a data center there, how are we going to compete with or allocate the right resources, and to which sector do we give it to? So there will be some situation over there, but of course, they may think of maybe only the most efficient data center can be built in Penang, for example, or the largest scale, like the hyperscaler, will be built in Kedah, Kulim. So these are all the ongoing conversation. But the most recent one I'm seeing is Northern Selangor and Negeri Sembilan. I think that's all I want to share. Let me know if you have any question going forward. Thank you.
We will now open the floor for Q&A session. If you have any questions, please raise up your hand so we can pass you the mic before asking the question.
Thank you, Ken, for your insights. Actually, I was quite curious when you mentioned earlier that the data center scouters, when they look at the region, they said that first you said they didn't believe in Malaysia, then they scout around. So what made them come to Malaysia? I'm just quite curious.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like you said, going forward, based on all these challenges, do you still feel that we have what it takes for us to be the most attractive center? I mean, to attract all these data centers to Malaysia.
Yeah, sure. The first question. So when they are going around before decided to set foot in Malaysia, they always thought Jakarta, Indonesia, they have huge population. 300, I don't know how many, 300 million population, that kind of capacity. So population in a way translates to customer to them. For example, TikTok, comparing Malaysia 34 million population and 300 or millions of population in Indonesia. There's a lot of business to be made over there. But what they have been sharing with me is that Indonesia is so scattered around. There are many islands, and Jakarta alone, yes, there's a lot of population, but it's not as easy as compared to Malaysia to go around to get the approvals, to get the power, to get the water supply. So this is we are just comparing with Indonesia. If you talk about Philippines, they have a natural disaster. So some of my customer likes Philippines. They were there, but halfway throughout the journey, they just pulled out. They said, "Oh, it's too high risk. Right? Why do I want to take such risk when Malaysia is so safe? We are shielded from all natural disaster, and the cost is still low. Land price, our power, or the water is it's not that expensive compared to the region." Then we go to Vietnam. Vietnam is very strong in industrial investment. My industrial teams are quite active over there, but still the regulation there, the government is still so too unstable for them to be in there. Then we have Thailand. Thailand is not a bad location. It currently attracts quite a bit of the interest away from Malaysia, mainly because Malaysia is struggling to keep up with the speed of those data centers is trying to achieve. And like I said earlier, and I'm going to emphasize again, it's all about infrastructures. If we are able to expedite all the infrastructure, all the upgrade projects for power, for water, as soon as we can, I'm sure we'll continue to grow. Right now, infrastructure limitation is part of the reason that's causing a slowdown. And I think that's about it. We have covered most of the regional countries, and we don't have to talk about Japan and Korea. The demand is high. You won't be able to get power in the coming 2 to 3 years time. It's queuing up. So after they gone one round, they still think Malaysia is safe, it's cheap, political still okay, not bad. The local government is open to work with them, and MDEC, MIDA is very open, and they provide the right incentives to them, and they provide the right support to them. And that's why they decided to make a decision, set foot in Malaysia. And your question on whether those challenges I mentioned will stop Malaysia data center from growing. Like I said earlier, yes, we are already slowing down because of infrastructures, but things are still going on. It's just that we are not seeing the exponential growth as we have seen earlier, which is good. This is positive as we are filtering out all the speculative operators coming in or investors coming in. I have seen cases whereby because the data center sector in Malaysia is so hot, right? They are buying land just to sit on it, waiting to flip the land, right? In the coming 1 or 2 years time. But now the sector is consolidating, so they are finding difficulties. And I think you will see in the coming months or years that more of such deal will be aborted. So these are things that we have to be very careful. That's why JLL is very careful in managing our clients. We would rather lose a deal, but we won't get involved in any of the uncertain or deals which we didn't believe in. I hope it answers. Right. Yep. Yeah, sure. This, in a way, to them, is not too, the impact to the data center operators or their customer is not very significant, I would say, because like I said earlier, the majority of the cost is still on the electricity tariff as their operation cost, right? And most importantly is their customers. Right now, it's so uncertain that we are consolidating because even the customers, right, are still could not make any decision to set foot in Malaysia. Yes, there's a lot of inquiries, but they are still pending a more clearer direction before they set foot, saying that, oh, I want to lease 5-10 megawatt here in Malaysia. So to answer the question, STT to the data center operator is not a big impact, but I believe to the contractors or maybe the somewhere along the supply chain, you will be.
Any further questions from the participants?
Hi, I have a question regarding the data center under the pipeline. You mentioned just now 3,000 over megawatts, 3 times what that which is under construction. So how certain is that this will come to pass? And also define what you mean by in the pipeline.
Okay, sure. In the pipeline, so okay, for example, maybe I give a very easy example. For example, when you have seen a news whereby a data center announced that they are going to build a 200 megawatt of a data center here in Malaysia, right? It's always in phases. So, for example, the phase one will be completed, say 10 megawatt. So that 10 megawatt will be put under the completed capacity. And in between, they will tell us, whether they have started construction for the second phase. Say the second phase is 20 megawatt. So that will be put under the under construction phase. And the rest, because the timeline is too long for us to see whether, when it will come into fruition. And we will put all the figures into the pipeline. Hope this answers. And your second question is whether all this will come into fruition. Like I said, it's always demand and supply. But from what I can see, based on my personal view, is that we will continue to grow steadily, not exponentially. We'll continue to grow, or to give you a better example, the completed capacity will continue to grow at maybe 20% every year, slowly we grow until we come across catalysts like AI, which I think all of us are waiting. If it comes through, then you can see there's a big jump in maybe the under construction figures and reduction in the pipeline. Thank you.
Yeah, hi Kent. You touched base about CSP and also colos players earlier on. Just wonder, between them two, which one would be driving the growth or accelerating at this moment of time? And the second thing is I'd like to ask, on OpenAI, you mentioned that there could be catalysts coming from there, but is there any visibility as of right now on how are they deploying into Asia, and is there a timeline for that?
Sure. Your first question, I think CSP and co-location. CSP, I need to put it very upfront or clear, is that CSP, I refers to the company like Microsoft, Amazon, Google, those big boys, the top, right at the top of the pyramid, right? So they are the demand drivers. But if you understand how they work is, they normally, when they enter the market, they will co-locate in the existing data center by the third-party operators. Once they are familiar with how it works, say in Malaysia, they only start building their own data center, which we are already seeing. For Greater KL area, you can see easily we have Amazon, we have Microsoft, we have Microsoft, and we have Google already announced their plans here in Greater KL to build big campuses. So in Greater KL, the CSP will drive the market, not the colo side. The colo side, I think, is also very tight. In the entire Greater KL, I think the availability of immediate stock for co-location is very tight. I think maybe less than 10 megawatt only. So the supply is tight, but the demand is high. So this is why you can see a lot of people are coming and build more data center over there. So, but to answer your question, CSP will drive the northern and the Greater KL area, whereas in the south, Johor is mainly the co-location people. It can be from the retail side, it can be from the enterprise and wholesale side, meaning ByteDance obviously is the wholesale. They will come in, they take up the entire space, 50 megawatt, 100 megawatt. And recently, like I said earlier, it's more about the smaller players, 5, 10 megawatt, especially from the eastern side. So they will continue to drive the market in Johor. And your second question is on OpenAI. So this is just extract that I got it from the edge. But of course, we cannot deny that if such project were to come into fruition, right? So where is the most viable location for them to set foot? As far as I understand, as far as I've done my study, right, in the region, Malaysia is still the best location to provide such power, such water, such land mass at an affordable price. But of course, somewhere along the line, maybe you can see another similar companies as big as OpenAI. We don't know. All these data centers, the demand drivers are by all these tech companies. What if somewhere along the line we have another companies, and whether it will come into Malaysia, you go to another location? So it really depends on what we we are seeing and how stable and also the market dynamics are. AI, if we take away the company OpenAI, right, AI will be the catalyst for the entire industries. Okay.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Kent, for sharing your insight with us today. Now I would like to invite Ms. Lee Jim Ling to present our token of appreciation to Mr. Kent. Please give our speaker a round of applause.